Good morning. You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Bruno Edgard. Thank you for joining us this 5th of December 2022. And just remember that Protea Hotel Entebbe is the place to be if you want to enjoy a wonderful festive season with your family. Just make your reservation and booking today, and you will have the best when it comes to a luxurious space, whether for your family and just a luncheon or for dinner, or whether you want to have a wedding reception there as well. Make your booking at Protea Hotel Entebbe. So Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel Entebbe. Now today we are discussing about very important matters, and especially from the presidential address that was given by His Excellency on Friday last week. And one of the key things that he spoke about were the new restrictions and the new measures when it comes to COVID-19. And we are asking ourselves, what? We thought COVID-19 was gone, but no, apparently we still have to be very vigilant to ensure that we do not have issues with COVID-19. Now, my guest to discuss the current state of affairs in the country, we're talking about the address, we're also talking about corruption, and we are talking about the issue of Ebola as well. And my guest to discuss this today is Mr. Christopher Lwanga, making his comeback. Now he's a head ideology, research and documentation when it comes to Uganda People's Congress. So thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for returning to Issues at Hand.
Thanks for giving me another opportunity to appear here. But before I proceed, I have to convey good greetings, warm greetings from my party president, Honorable Jim Akena, the UPC fraternity at Uganda House Secretariat, and the General fraternity from where I belong. And on my behalf, I'm very happy to be entertained here for the second time to discuss national issues.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, let's start with the new COVID-19 measures that have just been given by the president. Now, something that he mentioned is that you have to have a certificate of vaccination with evidence of up-to-date boosting in order to be allowed entry into formal meetings and public places, including religious gatherings, local council meetings, and other social meetings. And then, if you do not have a COVID-19 certificate of vaccination, then you need a negative PCR test that happens within 24 hours. And then a COVID-19 vaccination certificate will be required to access offices at all government ministries, departments and agencies, and other public and private offices. He also went on, that's His Excellency President Museveni went on to state that we need to rediscover our love for masks and use masks as much as possible, especially in closed spaces. And then he says people who are 50 years old and above should get vaccinated and boosted at least every 6 months, while individuals with symptoms of COVID-19 should not go to closed or crowded places. So those are some of the measures that he came to put forth in his address last Friday. What is your take on these new measures?
Thanks very much for giving me an opportunity to reflect on the speech by the president, especially on a sensitive topic like COVID-19 outbreak. I would want to tell you and to assure the listeners of this program, all those who are watching, COVID is real. We have to agree on that fact, that COVID is real. The better measures we put in place can make us survive this threat. I myself, in front of you, I have received 3 successive vaccinations to do with COVID. And my old mom, Mrs. Miriam Rutwama Kaboja who is 97, has also received 3 of them.
So these are the 2 doses plus a booster shot?
Plus a booster. And trust me, some few months back, she was struck with the COVID. When she was taken to Lwanga hospital, they diagnosed it and they found the COVID, but it was not as severe as it was supposed to be the case if she had not been vaccinated. And she got her routine medicine without breaking her schedule. What I only did was to separate from her, and I told her, my friend, for you, you have a lot of sympathizers. You have fallen sick, people have come in to help you. Me now, if I fall sick, I will fend for myself. So let us separate having meals together. Since that time, I have not gone back to have meals with her. But we always meet each other, we chat because we stay in the same compound. Now, what am I trying to bring here? The president may give those directives and they may not make meaning to you. But if you come closer to COVID, or a relative, or a close friend survives COVID, or is consumed by COVID, that is when you understand the logic of the president's message and its spirit. We need now to internalize the spirit. And now we need to internalize is that spirit backed up by the tools the government, which is headed by the president, has offered. That is where there is a mismatch. The president has given clear-cut direction, but ask yourself, within the government departments, within the government agencies, how many received 2 doses and 1 booster? You will find that the percentage is very low.
Even amongst the army, the percentage is very low.
Okay. Now, isn't it a tall order to implement? Let us now move more from what he has said to the reality.
But isn't that the reason why he's putting forth these measures? Because he has also realized that when it comes to government officials as well and government agencies, there's a laxity when it comes to vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say here, his directive is not bad. We should embrace it. But the tools of implementing it is where there is a big challenge. When this COVID discussion, COVID talk was starting, it became more elitist. It remained on the top. It did not drop on the ground. And yet where it is supposed to be controlled, it is supposed to be controlled from the ground, not on the top. It is mainly people on the top with their national teams and district teams who came in to play a role, okay? But they were playing a role in isolation with the grassroots structures. Here we have a lot of effective grassroots structures if they are involved. For instance, this is an institution of Family TV controlled by Church of Uganda. Get the head of Church of Uganda and tell him, we want this message to reach your village churches of Church of Uganda. You are going to see that that message is going to flow from top to down and it will be executed properly. But our COVID measures lacked that aspect of trickling the message to the grassroots. Churches were used, religious institutions were used on top, but not empowered to reach the down. For them, they have even their structures where the government would not even put in even any money. They would manage to reach the grassroots. Come to all our families, to all our societies. They are rooted in clans. They are rooted in tribal establishments. Again, that one was not tapped in. We remained on the conventional government apparatus of national structure, district structure, and the health centers, which cover a huge geographical area. because of the limited resources, it is covering a huge area. And in the process of covering a huge area, the message did not sink.
Did not trickle down. And yes. I remember a government official talking about, well, this was on a conversation of gender-based violence and trying to get the message to people, especially to people who practice these cultures that where a lot of women's and girls' rights are violated. And something that this official mentioned is that we are not speaking the language of the people we are trying to reach. And it must also, because it's something he mentioned, is especially when you're talking to the youth, these government messages should be tailored in ways that the youth can receive them. For example, he used the example of edutainment. Can we creatively put this message forward? So is that also the same case? Like you said, the message was very conventional, and I remember during the time they were conventional, but also it had a hint of fear. So maybe that might be one of the reasons why a lot of people were not very urgent when it came to getting vaccinated against COVID-19.
This is actually very true, and at a certain point it was totally misinterpreted. And those who misinterpreted it had better tools. Others were saying it is being used as a political weapon, not to allow us to interact. This is because the communication of the message was not thorough to the last person on the ground. It gave mixed signals. What am I trying to allude to? Yes, we may have limited vaccines. We may have limited personnel to cover the vaccines, I mean to administer. But much as we may have that, let us be in touch with the people and we explain them the progress. Today we have not managed to vaccinate the targeted number of 100,000 because of ABCD. But we are mobilizing, come Wednesday, we are meeting the number and beyond. Those are sort of messages we need. But what did we see? Almost all government interventions ended up being misunderstood and misrepresented and misdirected, which was a bit unfortunate. Come to the COVID relief package, which was being given on mobile money system. It used to land in wrong places, and it caused a lot of discontent, because money is sweet and we are all greedy to have money. So anybody who did not receive and genuinely was qualifying to receive, it was causing a lot of problem. And some areas were not catered for. For instance, I'm PWD, people with disability. But our constituency was not catered for. And some of our people had it rough during the lockdown, because the majority survive on charity, and the charity taps had been closed. So how did the PWD survive? How did the elderly survive? These are sort of issues we need really to find a new way of how to approach them. Now, the government has come with a directive that we must have 2 standard jabs and 1 booster for that category of people. Are we having those jabs in place? And suppose we said, let us vaccinate massively. Are we having the capacity? Okay, these are sort of issues which we need really to sit down and work through. Is it the time now to hire all private clinics to come and join the government and do it massively? We should be looking towards this sort of details, okay? Is it time now to insert vaccination as part of school curriculum, such that people understand? Because for us who are with the people on the ground, wherever vaccinations come, there are a lot of interpretations in them, and some of the interpretations by lay people are too negative. And it is not only in Uganda. In Nigeria, for instance, they had problems of vaccinating against polio in one of the Islamic states. They were linking it to making people infertile, and it caused a lot of problems. Then at one time in the 70s and early 80s, even in Kenya, there was that problem where the Chukuyus were saying they are being made infertile. Here in Uganda, vaccination, wherever you talk to a lay person, is saying they are introducing the same disease in you to kill you, as we want to avoid vaccination. And yet the principle of vaccination yet is that very disease which they are vaccinating against will be introduced in your body such that the body gains immunity. The moment you are attacked, the body is used to that disease and it can repel it. Or when it attacks you, the impact is not as severe as attacking somebody who has never got acquainted with it. And some vaccinations are indeed renewable. Okay? They are renewable after a certain period of time. Some, they clear you that now it is over. So we need really in our society to appreciate where the president is coming from. The president and his government are realizing the danger, and they have sensed this danger from China. China is already having it rough. The disease has re-emerged. Yes, and when these diseases re-emerge, the effects are much more severe than the initial one you had. Because now on re-emergence, it comes when it is more stubborn, knowing that you have tried to fight it and it is also fighting back, and then you expect death. Or you expect the government to spend more money in saving its people. So he's seeing far, he's using his binoculars. Now he has to mobilize the system. He has to create awareness such that, like the way you know that you have to bath in the morning, you have to bath in the evening, we embrace his concept, minus even forcing us. We need to embrace it, we need to welcome it, we need to drum it up. Okay, we need to drum it up. But I suspect, this is my suspicion, even from the very beginning of COVID, that it has a lot of cost implications. You can drum it very successfully, and we turn up in big numbers, and you don't have the vaccine. What are you going to say?
Well, the vaccines, I believe, are available because something that government has been talking about, especially President Museveni, is the fact that there are many vaccines that are, I remember even earlier in June, there were many vaccines that expired in August because they remained unused due to the fact that many Ugandans remain unvaccinated, and there has been a low vaccination turnout when it comes to COVID-19. And so that is why, like you said, President Museveni is drumming this issue that people must get vaccinated against COVID-19 to ensure that there's no resurgence when it comes to COVID-19. But that's a good point, that we can drum up the issue, but do we have the capacity? And we shall see indeed whether government does have the capacity to ensure that everyone in Uganda is vaccinated. But it's important to remember that we must get vaccinated so that we are safe, so that our families are safe against any problem that might come when it comes to COVID-19. And now, talking about something else that is not being embraced as much as government may want it to be embraced, is the lockdowns in Masanda, in Mubende, and Kasanda. So the lockdowns continue even whilst there is a low case. There are low cases of Ebola infections in Uganda today as it stands. I believe they haven't, in the last 20 days, there's been no new infection reported in Mubende, and then for Kasanda, it has just been one case that has been reported. So people are asking, why should the lockdown continue? What is your say on this?
Yeah, I think at the moment, the government took one of the hardest steps, the most hardest step, by saying that Kasanda and Mubende are cordoned off. That is not a simple decision. We have had issues which are not disease-related, maybe hunger or what, and they try to prevail on the government. Declare that one as a disaster area, and you could see the government backpedaling how can I declare northern Uganda or Karamoja a disaster area that it needs emergencies. They try all other measures. But now when it came to Ebola, this is not our first experience. It could be even the third or fourth or fifth experience in the country. I think we had the earlier one which was very prominent, and it took Dr. Lwanga. I think it was our soldiers who were returning from DRC and were all reporting to Gulu, northern Uganda, and it developed from there. Dr. Lwanga, who worked very hard to save it, eventually it claimed him. Even in this one which has broken out in Kasanda and Mubende, it has claimed some health workers who are on the front line. Now, for the measure which was taken, however much it was hard hit, look at the centrality of Kasanda and Mubende. If it had not been cordoned off and it was given an opportunity to spread, the effects would be even more grave than when it was in Gulu. I'm not saying that Gulu is not supposed to be protected. Gulu essentially is also supposed to be protected, but these are more central. It can easily radiate to other places. So now, after having given it a serious cordon off, you need to evaluate how far the results have gone. Yes, cases they haven't been reported. At times it may be that the mechanism you have put on the ground has failed to pick them when they are there. Okay? So the government cannot rush to open. It still needs to put more feelers on the ground, receive more information on the ground. And since they know the incubation period, because Ebola is more funny, by the time it shows signs, it is already in you for about 20 or 21 days. Now I think the president and his system, they are trying to extend that period such that they don't register any patient as they are battling. Remember, it was a very difficult decision. Schools were going on. It was very difficult to send back children to school. They were all cordoned off. And when now schools closed, again the government had to move in to ensure that pupils and students reach their destinations when they are very safe and they are not spreading it. Again, the government is monitoring that impact of the movement. Remember when they closed for COVID during the first lockdown, the students who gathered in Kampala to go up country went and took that disease up country, which knocked off their parents. So even here, I think the government is saying, no, hold the moment. Don't rush too much. However ugly the situation is, however tough the situation is, let us still tighten on as we are monitoring. And of course, also the government was caught up with this element which we have created by ourselves. We have given so much audience to traditional healers, herbalists, and what have you. Now also they have jumped into this aspect of Ebola and COVID. They claim to be the best doctors around. And this is a virus which is very complicated even in scientific terms. Now, the president has struggled to tell off the traditional doctors to keep off. But of course, traditional doctors in most cases do their activities underground. And in most cases, there is a way they solicit their patients. So he needs also to drum more that traditional doctors remain in this aspect and attend to this aspect, but leave Ebola, leave COVID cases. So the Ebola control, the Ebola measures are still very much challenging. But let me say this. The government should not sleep on job, on duty. Wherever those epidemics happen, the manpower you have fused in, continue to build on it even in post-COVID, post-Ebola time. And if possible, get those teams and even send them to other experts. Like a country like Cuba, it has those international volunteers. Wherever there is an outbreak, whether it is COVID, Ebola, they have the teams to send and to continue with the research. They have not rested. This is an attitude our government should also take. As they are closing down agencies and what have you, this sort of institution must be well developed and made vast. Because like now the closing up of Kasanga and Mobende has brought into play a number of players. And those players must be institutionalized. You cannot say that you only rely on health. You cannot say you only rely on police to man the roadblocks. There are a lot of activities you need. There are even traditional institutions are needed because they are the ones now which calm down the nerves of the people. You as a government, you may not have the mechanism of calming down the nerves of the people. Okay? The borders, much as they are very strategic in helping, when again it comes to these disease outbreaks, at times they become the vectors who can, yes, they are desperate to make money, they are desperate to make the system operate, they are desperate to survive, but in the process they can mishandle a number of issues if they are not well guarded. So as a government, it must now have proper institutions which should guide the borders, which should guide the health workers. The level of preparedness should be there, okay? Like you saw in the developed world, when this COVID was breaking out, you could see teams of people spraying airports, spraying cars, spraying roads. This is now the level we should reach to. We should not have these excuses. We should not have directives which cannot be implemented on the ground. And always we must have a proactive system in government, whether it is parliament, let them speak the same language. It is a crisis, please. There are no any other ways. Focus on the crisis, see how you sort it out in short term, medium, and long term. There is no winner in this thing. It is a crisis. The more lives we save, the better infrastructure we put in place, that is the best. Okay? It is not as such a president's issue. A president is merely a figurehead. And he may even be more protected in state house. But is concerned because we are the subjects. We are the ordinary, we are the citizens he's leading. So that mechanism should be in place where we appreciate, where we have research, up-to-date research which is going on. All these diseases which are disturbing us, we must generate our internal capacity on how to contain them. By now, all government hospitals, mission hospitals at a certain level must have those sort of laboratories implemented, such that when you suspect an Ebola person affected with Ebola or COVID, you don't need to drive all the way from Jinja to bring the patient to Kampala. Jinja, within the environment of Jinja, there must be an ultra-modern laboratory to handle. You don't take chances. This is how we should move. Like the way now we have handled malaria. I'm a bit happy that with malaria, they went on the ground and provided mosquito nets massively to each family. Though, of course, also with our negativity, some of the mosquito nets ended up being used as safety nets when you have your vegetable garden and you want to ward off chicken, you want to ward off birds, okay? So, but the rate of malaria has been somehow internally checked with those proactive measures.
And with the proper implementation.
Yes.
So we pray that the same happens when it comes to the fight against Ebola.
Yes.
The conversation here continues. Please send us a WhatsApp message on 0787447684, 0787447684. Issues at hand. After the break, we are going to talk about security, especially when it comes to police that have been violently attacked. And then we're going to talk about how to stave off. Also talking about whether the lockdown in Muwende and Kasanda is still necessary when it comes to the fight against Ebola. Of course, our guest told us that there needs to be strict implementation when it comes to fighting these different ailments. Now, my guest for today is returning, and he is Mr. Christopher Lwanga, Head Ideology Research and Documentation when it comes to Uganda People's Congress. Now we get into the issue of security. Now we have seen over the past couple of weeks that many police posts in Luwero, in Kampala and in other places have been attacked by assailants wielding guns. Now there is a lot of talk about who these assailants are, and police has come out to mention that they are part of a rebel outfit, a new one called Coalition for Change, amongst others, and investigations are still ongoing as to who they are and what their intentions are. But of course, the question we are asking ourselves as members of the public is that if police who have the mandate to maintain law and order and to keep us safe are being attacked by these assailants, if they are being attacked by them, so how safe are we? And then secondly, police, even amidst the trouble of being attacked by these assailants, is now a lot of police posts are being merged following another directive from President Museveni. So is this good when it comes to fighting these assailants and keeping security on the streets? Is the merging of police really something that needs to be happening at this point in time? And what do you think about the security concerns when it comes to the attacks against police?
Thanks very much, Comrade Bruno, for giving me this opportunity to comment on an issue of national security. I'm not a security expert, but from the historical perspective of Uganda, anything to do with insecurity, it sends or it raises alarm among Ugandans. So insecurity has not started with the NRM from 1986. We have had various degrees of insecurity here and there. The only difference with the previous insecurity, you could put a finger that this insecurity is coming from here and here because of this and this. For instance, we had the army mutiny in 1964, and we had to call upon Britain to come in and help. This was regional. Tanzania had it, Kenya had it, we also had it. Then when we went for the referendum of lost counties, when the election results were announced in November 1964, again there was again instability and mayhem, especially in Uganda. Then that one led to the build-up, indirectly or directly, of 1966 crisis. You could see Kabaka and Mengo establishment forces versus the central government. It was clear to draw a line. Then we went into other unfortunate instabilities or insecurities on 19th December 1969, when Dr. Apollo Milton Obote was launching a common man's charter, a document which gives Uganda a political, economic, and a social direction. Then Haji Sebaduka fired a gun which almost cleared the president. And the president was now taken to Mulago. Immediately there was a cabinet emergency meeting which passed a statutory instrument that immediately put a nut on political activities. Though up to today, people are still blaming the UPC government of that time that it banned the political parties. But it was done in that circumstance that the big man is attempted to be killed. He's hospitalized in Mulago. He cannot coordinate and give any more instructions. He may even die there. You as the vice president, what do you do to calm down the nerves? Put that measure in place. It is where we came from until Idi Amin took over the government. And then Idi Amin started his instabilities, his insecurities, where you could know that maybe you were young, that UVS passing, Uganda very safe vehicle, it is going to arrest people, or it is abducting people. And you knew exactly it is Amin's system abducting people. Then when we entered 1980 and there was a civil war, you could know that rebels versus the government. And it was clear. And people could be put in camps to protect them. Now, this kind of insecurity we are having is so misleading, okay? It is so confusing and it is so worrying. Police forces are more vulnerable, and now they have said police forces, police activities should center at a sub-county level, Gombolola. If you say at Gombolola, do you know how big a Gombolola is? Okay? For instance, my Gombolola is Chengera Town Council, which used to be in Sanji, Gombolola. But it is a huge thing. It is a huge Gombolola. And we don't have rapid response teams in a Gombolola. Even if we had, they cannot patrol the entire Gombolola. Because the Gombolola is made of several mirukas. And the mirukas are made of several villages. My Muruka of Kasenge is made up of about 7 villages. And those 7 villages, even one village, it doesn't have a police officer. Now it means that you are leaving the town part, okay, more vulnerable and a den for criminal activities as you are looking at security up there. You cannot tell me that the removal of a police station which is near us within a community is a blessing. No, it is not. If anything, more policemen are needed to be on the grassroots. I had an opportunity when I had my long vacation as a teacher in Zambia. They used to give us holidays. When you have taught for about 3 years, they give you about 6 months holiday. So I went to UK and I was in the center of London. Now in London, you even see police officers being given meters in London. They operate in a radius of meters. He walks from here and reaches like main post office and comes back here at the church house. Then another one operates from church house to Uganda house. Another one operates from Uganda house to yard. They are walking like that on duty and they may even take turns. But the sort of cameras they are having are plenty on each village. The sort of hired, retired people they have hired, you stay in your flats and you watch whatever is going on. And yet this is a developed country where the citizens are very much conscious of their rights, but they know that they must maintain security 24 hours. Now, a sad story, I think it came from Sekanyonyi in Singo. The citizens are now sleeping with their animals inside the house. It is unfortunate. Animals are not pets we keep in the house like a cat, like a dog. these animals have a potential of having some diseases. And at times, animals, I don't know whether you have ever kept animals, especially cattle. They don't like certain colors and they don't like certain people. They are going to start kicking our people inside the houses. Pigs have been pulled from the piggery units and they are being kept inside the houses. And now Christmas has not started. It is simply approaching where a lot of safety is happening. When you ask, it is because they have removed the smaller police posts which were near people. Yes, admittedly, when those police stations, police posts were being taken near people, people had objected. But with time they saw the benefit of how they were serving the people. And let me say this also. Criminals are not special objects from planet Mars, from heaven. They are part of us. They are part of the society. Some are our children, some are our relatives, some are our friends. And trust me, the society knows who the criminals are. But the society may have the culture of concealing information when it realizes that that information at times can be used and you get exposed and you are put in more trouble. These are not angels that whatever they do cannot be seen. People know them. And if you worked closely with the society will bring up those people. So I feel that the government should really reconsider its decision of saying that we are starting to operate from Gombolola. The capacity they want to build of rapid response units at Gombolola cannot deal with the local issues. Maybe they should consider transforming the LDU into something more related, more understandable. The last time the LDUs were deployed, local defense units, they lacked adequate training and on how to handle situations. And from the time they started moving on the streets and the citizens getting a bit of harassment or a bit of hard handling from the LDUs decampaigned themselves unknowingly. And we started crying more for police presence because the police had been trained on how to deal with us. So the government should really consider that. Then also the government, I feel, it should step up the investigative work or units. In the 1960s, though you may not like some of these things, there was an institution which was known as GCU, General Service Unit. This institution was cutting across the country, but it was only the bosses, the top boss, and others very top, very senior, you could know that these are members of General Service Unit. The rest of the operatives of General Service Unit remained concealed, and they could follow information from really the grassroots and take it to their bosses to analyze that information. And from that way, they were in a position always to follow up issues. Now, that sort of spirit, we really need it. It should come back. It is part of national security, but not in a wrong way. No, just to be on top of the game. And
so a lot of implementation
yes,
is needed when it comes to security as well. Unfortunately, we'll have to end it here for now because of time, but Thank you so much, Mr. Christopher Lwanga, for taking us through that discussion on the state of affairs in the country when it comes to security, when it comes to COVID-19, when it comes to Ebola. And the takeaway for many of us here is that one, we need to be vigilant in all cases and all matters as members of the public, as heads of our families, as family members, as members of the community, that when it comes to COVID-19 and Ebola, we have to be vigilant and follow the SOPs so that we are healthy. And then when it comes to security, we must be vigilant as well. For us as parents, as our children are undergoing their holidays, we must know where our children are, and we must be training them and discipling them in the way of Christ. Thank you for joining us at Issues at Hand this Monday morning. We shall return tomorrow. For now, ciao. God richly bless you.